It's good this is only a podcast studio now because I feel like if you brought a woman back here with the cameras,
Yeah.
would
Oh, no,
be-
these are for my podcast.
Yeah,
Well,
no, it's cool.
yeah.
I just like multiple angles for podcasting purposes only.
And also, he leaves them on, so, like, because I got here earlier, and so, like, there was just, like, on, not
Sure.
recorded. But
I honestly think a woman would be more horrified to know that I had a podcast to begin with,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
let alone the equipment being
also,
here.
these pictures, like, just you.
Like
yeah,
I was down with you videotaping me without my permission in all circumstances, but the fact that you have a podcast, I'm just gonna say it was nice meeting you. It was nice meeting you.
Welcome to The Downside. My name is Gianmarco Soresi. I'm here with my co-host, Russell Daniels.
Gianmarco.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You're good, good. And we're here joined by a famous podcaster.
Yeah,
Legendary.
That's an oxymoron, but yeah.
And many other things that we're going to get into. Please welcome to the show, Jordan Harbinger.
Oh, I'm muted. Oh wait, no, I'm not. I just muted.
No.
I think there might be a loose cable.
Really?
Is that a thing?
No, I hear you. I see it
you
here.
Muted for a
I
sec.
hear you.
Can you turn my headphones down a little bit though?
turn
you
them
guys are
down.
Super loud. Yeah.
This is when you got a major podcaster. They got notes on the box.
Notes on the box.
Notes on the box.
I will stop doing
This
that.
is a new box because
It's
the
really
other one
fan- I like
shit
it.
out.
Colored buttons, man, they look
Yeah,
good.
I hate being my own producer. In this sense, I have a producer, but not a technical producer.
Got it. Yeah.
And I don't. You're a man. You learn how things work. I just slam my head against the wall until it records.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not that hard to produce a podcast, as evidenced by most of the podcasts that exist.
Yes. Well, we're very excited to have you. I listened because I listened to an episode that you had about interviewing people, and like
yeah.
it made me go, oh shit, I better bring my A game.
Yeah.
For a comedy podcast,
Yeah.
I do more research than anybody. For a real podcast, it's fine.
Yeah, but you know what? You're already in the top percentile because most people don't research the guests they even have on the show. And I'm talking about real journalists, too. They just don't have time,
Sure.
/ are lazy.
I can't even imagine not doing any kind of research. I mean, I don't know what it's like for you, Russell, showing up every day.
Tell us what it's
As the sidekick, I have
I'm
very
totally unprepared
little
for
pressure.
everything.
So, for those tuning in just now, many new listeners possibly, this is a place where we talk with our guests. We let things get negative. We let people complain. They can kvetch. They can bitch. They can moan. They don't have to pretend things are nice. They don't have to pretend that, like, I got the room cold enough. It's still a little warm. They don't have to
pretty good.
pretend. Thank you. I appreciate it. But that's not what this podcast
Okay,
is.
yeah,
it's bad.
Fuck it.
So, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Someone messaged me on Instagram and they said, your pedophile joke has been featured once again. I've written so many jokes. That pedophile joke, that's just the one I
Yeah.
will forever be known for. People come up to me, they say, are you the pedophile guy?
Yeah.
And I go, you can just say pedophile. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's just one of those jokes.
Yeah.
And you played it on an episode of
Yeah.
an intense episode.
Yeah, so this episode was about is a hacker that targets pedophiles or hebophiles, as I've come to learn, might also be included in there, or hebophiles. And he basically found some pedo message board where they trade child sexual abuse material, and it was like, I'm going to expose all the users to this thing because some of them use their real IP address and their real Gmail, and he found that some people were politicians and local folks in the community or like teachers or whatever, and he went after them and it showed the FBI. First of all, like no one believed him / cared, and news outlets were like, oh, we don't want to get sued for doxing people. And
Yeah.
And then he went on a couple of podcasts, mine and another couple of YouTube ones, and then it was like, oh, we can't ignore this anymore. And it was such a heavy-duty, intense show. The guy's name is Ryan Montgomery. It was such a heavy-duty, intense show that I was like, I'm going to lighten it up at the end, and that's when I stole your intellectual property without permission.
And that's
how
why
we
we
met.
got you here.
That's
So
the
I
meet
won't
cute.
sue. That was the terms of this podcast. No, it was a very. Let me go right out the gate. I listened to the whole episode. It's a two-parter.
Yeah.
Are you a religious guy?
I'm not. You could tell the hacker kind of was.
Well, that's so. He kept saying throughout this podcast, this is a guy who sees some of the worst humanity has to offer.
Yeah.
And like still, he would say multiple times, he's like, well, this is God's plan for me. And I think there's that thing in me. I'm like, how How do you square these two things? I stub my toe. I go, how could God exist when my toe is in this much pain? And this guy, it's just very interesting to me that he still holds on to that faith.
I have noticed that a lot of people who've been through really bad shit do sometimes turn to faith. I don't think he grew up that way, though. Because I don't know how much we got into this on the podcast or how much is from my research. That happens, I guess, too. But I know he had, like, addiction stuff going on in his family and stuff. So I don't think he grew up in the community, but I think he had no structure in life. And I think a lot of people who grow up with terrible / no structure could use a little bit of the Jesus. Here's looking at you.
Listen, I was hoping, what's his name? C.S. Lewis. I think C.S. Lewis, or I might be thinking of Francis Ellis. You know Francis Ellis?
I don't know who
he was
that
the
is.
head of the NIH for a long time. He's like a biologist and all these things. But he was walking through the woods someday, and he was an atheist, and then he passed 3 streams, and it was the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, and he became Christian. And it just boggles my mind.
You want that?
Sure, if it was real.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
If it's real, I want it. If it's not, then I don't. Then it's bad if you experience it because
There's a mental
illusion.
break happening. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, like if you walk through the stream,
But how would you know the difference? Maybe.
Sure.
You know?
But if I walk through a stream, I could see seeing the stream, and you're like, oh, consciousness is all over. But to go from nothing to there's Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
And this Bible.
Be very sure of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't.
It freaks me out.
What if this became a Christian podcast? It freaks you out. It would be a relief to feel that for once.
I don't know if I would be relieved. I think it would, it would change your whole existence and how you
The certainty
viewed
would just be
things.
such a relief, though, don't you think?
I don't know. No, I don't love certainty sometimes. So I think
Really?
But you're scared of death.
I am, but I don't think certainty would help me not be scared of death.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe I can't say because again, it would be a whole.
You're
different
uncertain.
person. Yeah.
You're uncertain if you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're sure my tracks go? Yeah, I see it. I see it. Sorry, I'm just
No, I appreciate it.
because you guys are loud and I'm like not that loud.
I'll
but
turn you up.
Maybe I just need. Yeah, maybe I just crave hearing my own voice.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
there we go. There we
Louder
go.
than
understand
everyone
that.
else's.
little
That
better.
now I feel better about this whole
Yes,
thing.
Yeah.
we're close talkers. It's
We
a
are.
problem.
I'm like,
Yeah, I know. So I fuck.
I stole your
think-
joke
I
is
just
where
think,
we left off,
I
yeah.
just yes. I just think as a Westerner,
Mm-hmm.
if I suddenly believed in like what happened to be the most common religion in my country, I'd be skeptical of that right then and there.
That's a really good point because most people fall into something that's really obvious, and only absolutely crazy people that we would write off immediately have something actually unique that they believe in. Now that I think about it, you're screwed either way.
But if
Yeah.
Russell, if you came to me and said, I'm Christian, I'd be like, what the fuck? If you came to me and said, I'm Muslim, I'd be like, interesting.
yeah.
Interesting.
You'd be
that
more
you
open
went with
to
that.
it.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if I said I was Jewish?
I
I think you're doing it for the showbiz connections. Am I
listen.
allowed to say that?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
We're not gonna have Kanye on. So let me just play the music. This is The Downside.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.
Well, Jordan, I feel like this podcast, you're right for this because you have on your show you have Skeptical Sunday. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, on Sundays.
And it's just like it is similar to one of you do a whole episode of like a segment. This has got to stop. I listened to the one on tipping, which was a
yeah.
very good one. I had no idea that tipping in America was kind of an extension of post-slavery.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I was like, wait,
God.
tipping is rooted in racism? Like, this is
I mean, everything we do.
kind of not surprising, but also surprising.
It was a way to like not pay, but still like that's why it's so prolific in America, particularly.
Yeah.
But enough about tipping. Let's talk about you.
Sure.
I have to ask right out the gate that you used to give tours to North Korea.
Yeah, that's okay. That came out of left field. I was like, what is coming next? Yeah, I used to. So a long time ago, 2010 or so, my friend goes, I'm going to North Korea. And I was like, I can't go. I'll go next time. He's like, this is North Korea. There's not going to be like a next time that I go.
Yeah,
North
there's the
Korea.
last time you go to North Korea.
Typically, yeah.
But okay, but even before we get there, are you a wild and crazy guy?
I was, yeah. I know I have 2 kids, so this is the wildest thing I do is stay up past 11 p.m. Or like have a drink at any time.
But have you traveled to places before that are?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Bosnia. I went to. I've gone to a lot of but North Korea I would say is probably the sketchiest place. I'm trying to think of other sketchy places that I've been to, but nothing approaches North Korea. I walked through Albania, Kosovo, and stuff like that when I was younger.
Is this when you were in college? You went to North Korea? Your friend asked you?
It was law school.
Law
Yeah,
school,
it was
okay.
it was probably after law school, like right after law school.
So your friend says to you, "Hey, you want to go to North Korea?" You're like, next time.
I'm like, next time. And he's like, dude, that makes absolutely no sense. You've been talking about it for a long time because him and I were discussing it, but it was illegal for us to go as Americans. Or either they weren't letting us in or the United States wasn't letting us go on our passports. I can't remember what the deal was, but we couldn't go. I think it was North Korea didn't want us there. And then, surprise, surprise. And then he's like, all right, let's go. I was like, fine, I'll go. So I go, and I talked about it on Facebook at the time, and then people were like, holy shit, you went to North Korea. I want to go. So then I said, all right, well
tell me about this trip. First, how do you get to North Korea?
How did you get it?
yeah, so you can't fly there directly, obviously.
Yeah.
You can't fly there from South Korea.
I'd be looking at Delta like for LaGuardia to Pyongyang.
Yeah. You go to Beijing, and then in order to get a visa, you need to go through the visa process, which is you go to a bar, and these North Korean dudes in like really cheap-ass communist suits show up there, and you hand them like $50 per person. You buy them a bunch of booze, and you have a very sort of pro forma chat, and then they take the envelope full of money and they give you these like tissue papery visas and a printout, and that's your visa to get in the country.
What is China's
pure
view on
bribery.
this? Is China just like what?
Chinese citizens can go to North Korea by just. I don't even know if they need a visa. I think they can just go.
So what does your visa say? You have a Chinese passport, or what is it?
Oh no! It's like instead of stamping your passport as an American, they just give you like this document that basically says I paid a bribe to a North Korean guy in Beijing.
Yeah.
And you show up at the airport, and they're like, "Oh, all right," and they don't stamp your passport because the United States they know is going to be a problem, and you can get your passport stamped if you have like. Say you're like dual Iranian American, they'll stamp your passport if you want them to, but I don't think they'll stamp your U.S. passport. They just give you this like cheap paper.
But it's all understood that this is kind of a bribery, and it's
they're not like, oh, you have official documents. I think it's kind of like. I think they're official documents, but I don't think they're like, oh, yeah, this came through the appropriate channels. I think they're like, yeah, you went to the embassy and got this, but they don't. The whole place runs on corruption, so I don't think there's no danger that you bribed your way in getting the visa. The danger is the fact that you went to North Korea in the first place.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so is it a major like a regular airline?
No. So it's not like it's not a regular airline. Air Koryo is the North Korean airline, and the planes are these old Soviet jetliners.
Oh my!
So
God.
they're in pretty good condition. At least, I mean, from the outside, and the inside looks like nicely upholstered. It doesn't look like holy crap, this thing is gonna fall out of the sky. But you used to be able to smoke on the flight. Not that I took advantage of that. The food was really bad, even for airline food. Bad.
Well, what could it be?
It was like a burger that was wrapped in plastic that tasted like the meat was probably not actually like fit for human consumption. And you're like, what was that? Was that paper that looked like meat?
How long is the flight? You said from where'd you leave from?
Beijing to Pyongyang. I don't remember how long it was. It's not that long. It's probably like 3 or 4 hours at the most.
Are you going into a regular airport? Are you going to an airfield?
Oh yeah. So when you
TSA?
when you land, you go to a massive airport with no other planes. At least when I went there, the 4 times I went there, no other planes on the tarmac at all. And when you land, the first thing that strikes you is the buildings look really old and communist, as you might imagine.
What is it? Describe to me what communist means when you say that.
Everything is prefabricated or colorless. There's no branding on anything. There's like no real. There's no, in an airport, they try to make it look like modern and nice. Communist architecture is almost designed to look imposing and authoritarian because that's how the government was run. It's like Stalin shit. Oh. And when you show up, the airport has a massive, and I'm talking like 2 or 3 story high picture of the leader of North Korea, or the leader and the leader's son, and then another leader's son now.
Is this when who
It's
was alive
massive.
still?
It was Kim Jong-il was when I first
Jong-il,
went. And the first leader was Kim Il-sung, then it was Kim Jong-il. That's the guy who has all the weird dictator stories. And the new guy who's been around for, I don't know, what is it, like a decade almost now, is Kim Jong-un. And his photo was not up when I went there. It was just Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. I think it's maybe a little bit like the monuments are usually not including the guy who's alive, but the pictures usually have the guy who's alive, so Kim Jong-un. But the monuments are all like the father and the grandfather.
Wow.
How much research did you do before this first trip? Because you're talking to two guys. I can't get this guy to go to Pennsylvania, to Delaware.
Or even Canada with
I'm
you,
just
sir.
saying. I'm just saying. Like, we would never.
Oh,
Back
we
then,
would
was it
never.
Is it worse now than it was then? Was this pre? Was there more tension or less tension?
There was way less tension.
Okay.
There was no. They hadn't killed that poor 20-year-old kid,
Otto.
Yeah.
Warmbier.
Yeah.
That had never. Nothing like that had ever happened there.
Yeah.
But it was still illegal to travel.
I don't think it was illegal. I think it was just like, hey, shouldn't go there. Not a good place. And the North Koreans were like, we want tourists, so come on in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you landed.
Yeah.
Oh, go.
Sorry, go. No.
So you where did you stay? A Marriott?
Yeah, there's no chains. There's no banks that you can use. There's no internet.
What's the name of the money they use?
They use won.
Okay.
But it's North Korean won. It's not like they use the same thing in South Korea, but they don't use the North Korean version. So it's completely worthless outside of the country, obviously, and it's mostly worthless inside the country because nobody wants it and there's nothing to buy. So even the stores inside the country that you walk by, if you're walking, they're closed, and they all have the same products on the shelf. This is very sort of like communist lack of everything. You'll walk past like 5 stores. They'll have these big windows. The windows are relatively dirty because nobody goes in the store and the store is closed. The power is off, and there'll be like a bottle of sake or soju or whatever. It's or rice, some kind of rice wine or some product, and it's pushed all the way to the front of the shelf, right next to the window. And if you sort of look carefully, there's nothing behind it because they only have the one that's next to the shelf, next to the window that's on the shelf because they just don't have anything else. And you also, I haven't done this experiment, but my bet is that the bottle is also empty and pushed up there so that it looks like the store has something, even though the door's locked, the power's off, and there's probably nobody there.
And what's the purpose of this fakery?
This is so that when people walk by, they have an illusion that there's a store, or when they drive by, they have an illusion that there's something there. Because occasionally you'll go to a bookstore, it's all planned. The tour guide will knock on the door. Someone will come to the door, turn all of the lights on. They look half asleep half the time because they probably woke up for this appointment for people to come in. And then you're at a bookstore, and every single book is by Kim Il-sung. That's it. There aren't books by other people in the bookstore. And that's all they sell. And
what kind of book? Romance novels or just history?
There's operas, history, engineering, any kind. They're all textbook-looking things, and they're only by the leader. They're clearly not only actually by this guy at all, but you can't give somebody else credit for being like a thought leader in the country because they don't want that. So the guy was like an expert at construction, an expert at opera, an expert at music, an expert at geology, an expert at rockets, an expert at space exploration, and then they'll sell stamps that are like very propaganda-y, like most stamps are in any country.
Of course.
And then they'll sell propaganda posters that are all hand painted. They don't have like maybe they do, but they don't use a printing machine. It's like you'll get a World Cup poster or a we're launching missiles poster, and it's all just hand painted with like these dry paints.
Speaking of stamps, I do feel like as I get older, you start to think about all the ways that you do have propaganda too. And
Yeah.
I mean, I do want to get into just like
Sure.
North Korea has become, especially with that woman who went on Joe Rogan and like shares her stories about
Melanie
North Korea.
Park, yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of like American just like pretending like we don't have a lot of similarities.
For sure, there's
with,
that. Yeah.
With like, and again, I don't know, but so there's like a very strict tour that you're going on.
Yeah, you can't just, if you're an American or a Westerner, I think if you're from Iran, you might have a little more freedom. If you're from, I don't know, if certain countries, I'm sure you have more freedom than you do if you're a Westerner. If you're a Westerner, you have a guide. The guide's with you at all times. Your hotel is on an island. You can't leave the hotel. I mean, you can go around the outside, but you can't leave the island the hotel's on without the guide. You can't go in and out of stores. There's not like restaurants you can go check out at night or anything like that. Everything's pre-planned. You can't do anything spontaneous. It's very, very controlled.
And they're doing this. They're getting some good income out of this.
They get your tour fee, but it's really not that expensive to go there for like a week. I mean, you're talking a couple $1,000 all inclusive.
But what are you doing there for a week?
Yeah,
if
you
can't
just see shit they
do
want you to
anything?
see. It's just them showing you stuff they want you to see. And some of it's patently ridiculous. Like you go to an ostrich farm. And you're like, hey, can we skip that? And they're like, no, it's important. And you're like, really, though? Because it's an ostrich farm.
That's so funny because we went to Aruba recently, my girlfriend and I, and the first thing I wanted to see was the emu.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Emu. And they had an ostrich, but that's my jam.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because there are ostriches there. But it's not so interesting that you have to see it 3 or 4 times, which I have.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
Because I've
I
gone there.
see every time you go. They're
Yeah.
like, and you're like, we saw the ostriches.
Yeah, it's like not optional.
Yeah.
And then you'll go to something called the Train Museum, and you're like, oh, this is going to be so annoying. It's a train museum. And frankly, the Train Museum is one of my favorite things because not only does it have almost nothing to do with trains, but communists, they love trains. Dictators in general love trains because they're often afraid of air travel. So
Why?
because it's probably vulnerable. For one thing, they can't get parts to maintain their aircraft fleet very well, but also I would imagine it's really easy to take out a dictator when he's in the air and like you could threaten to not let them land.
Interesting.
So they often travel by train. Putin does this. Kim Jong-un probably does this. I know Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il do this. And their train cars are ridiculous. They're like bulletproof. There's a beauty salon in there. There's like bunks and all these communications things. And it's got like the armament car with all these guns in it. And what was really funny is they'll show you like Kim Jong-il's train car, the one where his office is. And I remember going, oh, that's interesting. This is the desk where he just does whatever. And they're like, yeah, it has a satellite phone and a computer. And I'm like, this guy's using a MacBook Pro. Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il is like making he's probably got like a Google Docs spreadsheet of all of his freaking death camps or whatever on a MacBook Pro. And somehow he gets spare part. Like some schleppy North Korean guy's job is to like, go to Beijing on trips and be like, so he dropped it again and get him a new one. Yeah. And then he's got a sat phone because there's no internet. There's no cell phones in the country, really. At that time, there weren't. There's like mobile phones now, but it sucks.
And food, what are you doing? You said the burger was no good on the way there.
Yeah,
was there any good meals?
There's good food for people that can get the good food. So if you're an elite, you can go to a restaurant and get decent food. But for tourists, I remember the guides would always eat like better looking stuff, spicier stuff. And I'd say, can I try that? And they would go, I'm sorry, that's not suitable for the foreign palate. And I'm like, but this food really sucks. They're eating something that looks pretty good. Can we try that? And they would be like, I'm sorry, it's not suitable for Westerners. And they're eating kimchi and Korean food, which they must assume that we have just never seen in our lives, which is funny coming from New York or Los Angeles, where you can get Korean food every day and not eat the same thing for a month.
And was there no option to be like, if you had a lot of money at the time, could you be like, I'd like the nice trip? Like, is there one standard trip?
It's pretty much one standard trip. There was, I heard the difference is if you want to go on a culinary tour, they'll arrange that, but you have to plan that. You can't just show up and be like, I want to do a culinary tour. They have to go and buy all the ingredients and set up the chefs and like turn the electricity, literally the electricity on in the restaurants where you're going. Because there's nothing to do. Even in the capital city, there's not much for foreign people to go and do. Or probably for anybody to really go and do at night. There's certain stuff for elite party officials. They don't want freaking random people like me there. And then for the commoner who's just working all the time, they don't have disposable income. There's nothing for you to do. So it's very limited in what exists. You can't just like go drink fine Japanese whiskey because they look at the Japanese like Nazis.
Sure.
Right? So they just don't really have a lot of that stuff available at all.
Do you get a sense of people there that they all look miserable to be there, or like what?
Some, yeah. And the more rural you get, the worse it is. The people in rural areas really look exhausted, like falling asleep, standing up, tired. except for the ones that are there for the tour. So you'll go see a factory or something, and it's clear that the factory is either not doing anything and people are pretending to work in it, or they're doing something in it, but like the uniform is pressed and clean. And then when you look over the railing at the people downstairs, they're very dirty and very tired and very haggard looking. And you're like, but why is this person who's like wearing makeup?
Actors for like that.
It's either an actor or it's like a person who works there and they're like, look, tourists are going to see you tomorrow, so don't frickin' look disgusting. Get out the good new uniform that you're never really normally allowed to wear and put that on and then put it back in the closet when they leave or whatever. I don't really know how they set it all up.
And in your mind, did they give a speech before? Because I think the thing with Otto Warmbier was that they alleged that he took a sign.
He took a sign.
Like a propaganda poster.
So normally, you do an orientation, and I've done the same orientation where you're like, hey, don't argue political beliefs. There are no politics in North Korea. They don't want to discuss it. They don't want to hear your opinion about your country or about their country. They don't want you to ask for their opinion about their country. They don't have an opinion. Having an opinion in a place like that is a great way to get killed or arrested. Don't make jokes about the leadership. It's not funny. It's like making a joke about somebody's religion when they're a fundamentalist. It's not going to land no matter how well you think you're going to deliver it. Don't push the boundaries. Don't bring in certain things. Don't, fold magazines. Like they're very.
You even talk to your friend. Like if Russ was there with me, I could see going to that bookstore and be like, he wrote all these?
Yeah.
Or were you like, you're like, not even that.
You can say that to each other because it's not like they're like, I heard that. They don't do that. But you wouldn't want to go to the person working there and be like, look, I'm taking the leader's photo and I'm putting it on my balls. Like, you don't want to do anything like that because they'll be like,
that's why I'm never going
shit.
with you. That's for sure.
To give you an example of how strict they are about this kind of thing, I had a magazine that I took from In Flight, and it's a propaganda magazine, and the articles are like, Kim Jong-un declares decade of prosperity, and there's like a paragraph about how he stood up somewhere and was like, this is going to be the decade of prosperity, and then everyone clapped. Those are the articles that are in this thing. It'll be a photo of him on the front. So I took this magazine, which sometimes you're allowed to keep it, and sometimes they decide that you're not because they don't know the rules. If you ask the answer is no, but if you don't ask, then it's probably fine. That's how it is in all these kinds of places, but especially North Korea. So I take the magazine and I put it in my hotel room, and it's fine. And a few days go by, and they clean your room, they clean the stuff, they organize stuff. Well, I took some change that I had, and I put it in an ashtray, and I took the ashtray, and I was moving stuff around, and I put the ashtray on the magazine that had the photo, and when I came back to my room, the magazine was gone, the ashtray was down where I had left it, and the change was all stacked neatly according to the size of the coin. So they definitely found it, organized it for me, and were like, you can't have this magazine in the room if you're going to put an ashtray over the face of the leader. And I, on the airplane home, on one of the trips, I was actually sat in the back. All the North Koreans sit in the back, and all the tourists sit in the front. Doesn't matter what your seat says. They don't want you to sit next to a North Korean. It's just not a thing you're allowed to do.
Sure.
There was a seating issue, so I sat next to a North Korean. North Koreans who can fly to China are very, very, very privileged, or they work for the state, probably both. So I'm sitting next to this kind of intimidating, scary-looking guy who's probably like some kind of spy-ish character. You don't know what people do. They're not going to tell you. The only people I talked to that were not North Koreans and weren't tourists were arms dealers. One guy literally told me he sells missiles, and he'd just come from Syria, and he had a Russian passport. That was the other guy on the flight.
He was very that's pretty talkative.
I was sitting next to him, and I was like, oh, where are you from? Are you North Korean? He's like, no, but I look Asian. And I said, yeah, you kind of do. And he's like, I'm Russian. And I said, oh, what are you doing in North Korea? And he's like, I sell parts for machine parts. And I was like, oh, what kind of machines? And he's like, rockets and things that fly, like, and I was like, missile parts, like jokingly, and he's like, yes, and also machine parts. And I was thinking, this guy sells arms, like purely, definitely sells like gun parts or
so
something.
Open.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably like, what are you gonna do? Tell anyone you want to tell, pal. I don't give a shit. You know, what am I gonna do? We're flying back to Beijing from Pyongyang. Like, what am I gonna do?
Was there anything there?
What made you want? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, was there anything there that was like, oh, that was fun, or that was a roller coaster? Like, was
What made you want to? Then you went there once. What made you want to bring other people?
Yeah, I talked about it on my podcast a million years ago. This is like 12 years ago, 13 years ago now. And I was related to podcasting. And people were like, whoa, I want to go check that out. That sounds really interesting. So I filled another trip, planned another trip. Then I posted about that trip on social media. More people wanted to go. So I was just like...
You can't take pictures of any of this shit.
You can.
You can.
Yeah, you can. So what's interesting about North Korea is, again, everything is always no until they like you and trust you a little bit, and the answer is maybe.
And is it more about emotions than money? It's like it sounds like they have to trust you as opposed to like, hey, I'll bring a tour guide. They'll pay 20 grand each. Like, is it not as much about that?
It's more careful, I think. So, for example, you're driving along and we're like, oh, there's tanks driving around over there. And so everyone goes to take a picture and they're like, no pictures. And you're like, why? It's like a Soviet tank from 1968. There's nothing secret about this at all. And then they're like, no photos. And you go, okay, I respect that. You don't want us to take photos. Who cares? But some tourists will be like, well, fuck you. I'm going to take a photo. And they'll do it. And then they're like, we want him to delete all the photos that are on his phone now or camera. And it's like, oh. So there would be we were on some tours where there were maybe multiple tour buses, not all tours filled by me, prime tourist season, which is like, maybe 40 tourists in the country at the same time. And we'll come back and we'll go, today was a weird day, huh? And they're like, yeah, we couldn't take pictures. They wouldn't let us see the dam. We couldn't get to the milk factory or whatever. And we're like, oh, we not only went to the dam, they let us take pictures of a bunch of stuff, and we went to the factory. And I remember asking my guide, how come we got to do all that stuff and they didn't? And she would go, there's 2 people from Sweden in that group, and they won't listen when we say no pictures, so we just decided they can't do anything.
I think it's funny trying to leave a Yelp review for North Korea.
Yeah.
Being like, we didn't get to go to the milk factory. There was a very limited selection at the grocery store.
We saw the ostriches 5 times. What makes you? What do you think then? I mean, because that sounds like very intense, but also like there's like some like you do something and they're like, you can't do that, and you're like, okay,
yeah.
How did this auto situation get so
out of control?
Out of control.
So he went with a company called Young Pioneer Tours. They were not our tour partner for very long because they were, and I liked some of the guys who ran it, but it was very disorganized and very like dude bro culture. And the one time I ran a tour with them, the guide showed up really late to the Beijing hostel where we were all staying. He didn't have time to do the orientation because he hadn't collected money from half the participants, so he needed to take them to an ATM to literally get paid for the trip beforehand because there's no banks in North Korea that you can use for money. So he's like, oh crap, I need to get people. So he's like, you guys you'll be fine. So what I hypothesize happened, and I don't have any evidence for this, but based on my experience with that same tour company before I chose a different partner for tours, they probably didn't run an orientation. They probably got super drunk every single night because that tour company was all about like getting super fucking wasted all the time, which is common in North Korea. It's not.
Sure.
It's very common actually.
And I'm just thinking about like my birthright trip, and it's just like, you're gonna have young.
Well, and you're like kind of visiting. Sounds like boring things all day. You're like, okay,
pretty much.
We're getting drunk at night,
Pretty much, and you can't leave. It's not like you can leave the hotel.
Yes, yeah.
So there's like a bowling alley with one lane in the basement. There's like you can buy like weird Korean dresses that have to be measured and tailored to you. So no one's doing that. There's a store that has stuff you would never buy, like deer antlers, and you're like, why would I buy that on a trip? And they're like, oh, it's medicine. You can grind it up. I'm like, but I'm on a trip with I'm not gonna buy that. It's so weird. Or a bear claw.
Yeah.
Like a literal bear claw. So you're just drinking and you're doing there's karaoke, and that's like what everyone does is drink and do karaoke. But what's funny is they only have half of the binder. The other half of the binder is just missing because like the DVD got lost 10 years ago. So you can only start from M and go all the way through Z in the songbook, and those are your options. So
did they pluck any songs out for being like, this is a little racy or a little sexy?
I don't know, but I'm not actually sure about that. I'm not sure. It's maybe, but it's probably a Chinese karaoke DVD from like 1995, and they just went, oh, we lost the other half of the DVD set. Here we are.
When you started running a service, though, were you anxious at all about the kind of people that you took, or you take a young kid? I mean, I'd be scared to go, anyways, and I'd be listening. But you take someone young. Did you ever have any trips that were like a little bit, someone fucked up, or you got a little bit nervous?
There was one guy who was he was a real asshole, but he was a real asshole. Something was not right with him in the head, and I hate to say this because I don't know what it was, but he couldn't react to social situations at all. And so he would wear like a Japanese flag T-shirt, which to them is like wearing a swastika, right? It's just like,
God.
yeah.
Oh my God.
That's so stressful.
It was really bad. And so they'd be like, can you tell Kevin to change his shirt? And we'd go, hey, Kevin, you got to change your shirt. You know, they have this whole war thing with Japan, and there was a lot of atrocities. And he'd go, no, I have freedom of speech. And we're like, actually, you fucking
Not
don't.
anymore.
You don't.
Not
We're
anymore.
like, you don't. And he would just die on that hill until we would like make him turn his shirt inside out, because the guide would go, we're not taking you out of the hotel and we're leaving without you, and we're not going to take you anywhere for the rest of the week until you change your shirt. And he would turn it inside out, and then we'd get somewhere and he'd turn it right back inside out and be like, I won that battle. And we're like, no, you're just being a complete asshole for no reason.
And with that flag, even inside out, you're still seeing that big red dot.
Of course.
through it.
Yeah.
Of course. So we just had to explain to the tour guide, we're like, he's an asshole. We didn't know him. We feel really bad. And the guide's like, it's fine, but we're going into like these villages where people live and their families were all murdered by Japanese people. Like, do you fucking mind? You know?
Yeah.
They didn't say it that way, but it was just like really.
They need to make a Curb Your Enthusiasm with these guys being like, please, he's got to change this.
Right. There was a lot of that kind of thing, but it was always the same guy. And we just explained to the guys.
He was an American.
He was, but he lived in Ukraine. And what was interesting was
a Japanese flag.
it was just a guy who had no. It was funny because there were a couple other Americans that had lived in South Korea and a couple guys that were living in China at the time that were also American, but he came on the trip. And they looked at each other when they saw him and they go, yeah, typical LBH. And I was like, what does that mean? And they were like, oh, it means loser back home. And it's a whole category of American that lives in other countries that has no friends, Americans all go
so
like, oh, this
funny.
fucking guy, I don't want anything to do with that guy.
Yeah.
But he goes to Ukraine and they're like, oh, it's the quirky American guy. And they don't have any context for the fact that he's just actually kind of a piece of shit
Oh, that's so funny.
and can't help
You'd
himself.
see someone like that being like, I'm not doing well here, but I'll be a character in
Maybe
another
I'll be
country.
popular in
Yeah.
Ukraine.
Yeah.
Right, like he goes and lives in like a
It's our whole
tier
thing, the
2
crazy American. That,
Yeah, or goes and lives in a tier 2 city where the national income is $800 a month, and he makes, $800 a year, and he makes that in a month teaching English online or like doing his e-commerce biz, and so everyone's like,
Rich.
he's rich, and they don't realize that he's like a complete asshole with no social skills.
And then he goes to North Korea, and they're like,
Yeah.
you're a loser, actually.
right, like
You went too far. You went to South Korea, that was fine. Now
You're a
we see
fucking
you for who you
loser.
are.
I remember no one would room with him because you go to different hotels and,
Yeah, I'm not rooming with that guy.
No way. No way.
There were so many incidences with him being like he would drink a whole bottle of vodka alone before dinner, and we're like, hey, you can't walk. And so like a North Korean person would try to help him walk upstairs, and he would like elbow them and be like, fuck you, I can do it. And we're like, you're gonna get arrested, and you're a dude who can't walk.
See, this is crazy because I think this is all pre that Otto
It's
situation.
pre-Otto. If I had seen that guy, I wouldn't have gone after Otto, and I haven't gone after Otto.
yeah.
But if I had a guy like that,
It's scary. thinking
it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that you could just then be, a whole
Yeah, Otto was wearing just a regular shirt. I mean,
and took a poster. So you're like, how's this Kevin getting away with?
Yeah.
So when was your last trip to North Korea?
I want to say 2014.
And when did Otto happen?
Ooh, when was that?
It was during Trump. It was
Was it
during Trump.
2016?
2016 or 17?
I think it was 2016
Yeah.
or 2017, yeah.
And that must have changed the industry.
So it became illegal for Americans to go there, period, from the perspective of the United States. So I used to own howtogotonorthkorea.com, which was not taken. Can you believe it?
Wow.
So I bought that. I set it up as like a lead generation site for our tour partners in Beijing. And then I eventually sold that to them. And they were kind of like, yeah, we're going to pay you for this, but we know you have no leverage because your business is basically done.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So we shut it down. Like our lawyers were like, yeah, they can't really prohibit you from. And I was like, let me stop you right there. I am not interested in fighting the U.S. State Department on whether or not this is technically constitutional. It's just not big enough as a business for me to do. And also, I didn't want to send money to the regime. It was kind of like dicey sending money and tourists to a regime before, but it was like, well, maybe they're going to reintegrate with the rest of the world. Maybe they're coming up. They're going to get a new leader. And then it was like, oh, no, they're doubling down on being super shitty and authoritarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine after auto, I mean, it must have just shut down some of this industry.
It did. I think a lot of people were afraid to go, rightfully so. And then COVID hit, and I'm not even sure if they have tourists even now. They shut down the entire border. I mean, smuggling is not happening. Smuggling happens, but they really locked it down for smuggling. They locked down tourism. They locked down business transactions. They locked down the special economic zones because they know that if they get a COVID outbreak there that's serious, they have absolutely no way of controlling it. They don't have healthcare there very much at all. I mean, it's what you would expect from a third world authoritarian state. I mean, they can't do anything about it. They don't have vaccination really or anything, so it would just destroy. It would kill hundreds, and the people are malnourished and overworked, right? So you're gonna hit a population like that. It's gonna be one of the worst outbreaks around. So they were very careful about not allowing it. You remember that movie? Well, there was a zombie movie, and they were talking about how North Korea had solved the zombie breakout problem because they pulled everyone's teeth. You remember this?
No.
It was like World War Z or something. And they're like, what about
sure.
North Korea? And they were like, yeah, they don't have the outbreak is done there. And they're like, how did they do that? And they're like, they pulled everyone's teeth out. And it's like, that was so North Korean because they can do, in a country like that, it's just like, yeah, they will just say no crossing the border. And if you do, they shoot you.
Yeah.
And
they
that's
have
it.
they have enough people on staff to like enforce these things. I think I read about like whatever that group is that smuggles in USB sticks with like Friends on it.
Right, yeah.
Episodes of Friends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's harder to do now because they locked down the border. Before, it was like Liberty in North Korea was doing stuff like that.
It's cruel to show Friends, just to show like the nicest apartment. It doesn't even for New Yorkers. It's like this is bullshit.
Like she works at a coffee shop and she can afford this? No, don't worry, that part's fake. Yeah.
I think I've even mentioned on this podcast before. I think like for me, when Trump spoke well of Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un after Otto was delivered back brain dead.
Yeah.
To me, I thought was so shocking that it was like that the very patriotic conservative side would tolerate that. It seems so, especially even more. I mean, Otto was just like an American.
He was, by all accounts, a really good kid and an overachiever who was like very sweet and talented and had a lot of potential.
And I think there was just something about that moment where I was like, Jesus Christ, I guess we don't even care about. There's not even a unity of like an American. Like Trump could override that. The love of Trump overrode the love of like, oh my God, they killed an American. I feel like a different time the country would have been like, honestly, would have been like, we need to go to war.
Right, yeah. It would have been like cruise missile o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really sad. And there's videotape of somebody that looks like him taking the poster. Maybe he did, but here's the thing. You're drinking.
I auditioned for that tape, actually, and didn't get it.
You're drinking in a hotel with a bunch of people, and it's a crime to damage the propaganda thing, but nobody saw it, right? So they could have just let it go, but they decided not to do that, right? They decided not to do that.
Yeah, it feels like
that's
choice,
what it feels
just
like
hey,
an example. It felt like we're gonna do this.
Yeah,
make a big
because
thing.
I snuck onto that floor too when I was there a couple of times. I didn't take anything, but you're not allowed to be on that floor of the hotel. The elevator doesn't have a button for that floor.
What are you, crazy?
Yeah, that was not a good idea. That was a really bad idea.
Are you still that person?
No. I look at that and I go, that's like.
Do you go, my brain wasn't fully formed,
yeah,
maybe?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those, like, when you go and you look at your childhood and you go, wait, I used to go skydiving all the time, which, by the way, I've never done that. But I would imagine it's that same kind of
I did it once.
It's such a crazy example to have.
Yeah.
Like, I literally did that thing that could have.
Yeah, where the guy died.
Yeah.
Could have turned into a world, thing that was everyone knew about
Yeah.
and been, brain dead. Yeah.
Yeah. And they try to keep you off that floor. Like, if you go up the stairs, there's somebody on the stairs in the dark knitting with a candle, and they're like, nope, because this elevator doesn't go there. Service elevator gets shut off at night. But if you go there early enough, you could take the service elevator to one of the areas, take the stairs, go down the stairs, go on that floor, and it's all propaganda posters and meeting rooms. And the guy caught us anyway, and we just pretended to be so drunk that we didn't know where we were. Ugh. And he was like, not good humored about it, but he was very professional about it. Took us to the bathroom on that floor because we were like, we got to stall and see the rest of this floor and walk through it more. And then he walked us down and he was like, no more. I mean, he was pretty like, this is not a place where you get to go and be.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, they don't want you on that floor, and they don't want you ripping posters off the wall and stuff like that, for sure. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's, like, piles of little video cameras, which makes you think they're probably in all the rooms. Why do they have
Yeah, that's
50
I'm
video
not
cameras in a
jerking
pile?
it in that room, I'll tell you that.
No, too late for me, but, you know, what are you going to do?
Are there any misconceptions? I mean, obviously misconceptions, but do you think Americans paint it as even worse than it actually is?
I think people view it as 1984, everybody's controlled because they have high technology. That's more China these days, but it's way more controlled in North Korea. But they don't even have electricity in most places. So while they have propaganda everywhere and there's like propaganda being shouted from loudspeakers, there is indeed a speaker that's built into the wall in the home. When you have electricity, it's playing propaganda in there. So it really is very 1984-ish. I think they're holding on by a thread when it comes to that population. I think everybody knows that they live in a shitty place that doesn't have enough resources. I think they're too tired and underfed to do anything about it, but I think everybody there probably knows what situation they're in.
Think there could ever be a coup?
Yeah, I think there probably could be a coup, but the problem is the coup going to make things better, or is it just going to put the military generals in charge and the Kim family out? There was an explosion a really long time ago, like 2011 or something, and this chemical train full of fertilizer blew up like 3 city blocks. And it seemed like a crazy accident. It took them days to let aid workers in, but it leveled buildings. I mean, it killed, I want to say it killed hundreds of people, but I could be exaggerating. But it was a massive, massive explosion.
Yeah.
There's speculation that was an attempt on killing Kim Jong-il, and it just failed because he was supposed to be whatever in the area or on a different train or blah, blah, blah. And then there was another incident where there's not that much traffic in Pyongyang because they don't have gas and most people don't have cars. There's no money. So there was a time when his car was driving through an intersection and they don't have traffic lights. They have traffic ladies that are police essentially with these batons, and they tell cars which way to go. They're just controlling the traffic manually. This truck that was loaded with rocks or something sped through the intersection, and the only reason it didn't hit Kim Jong-un's car going like 60 miles an hour weighing 5 tons is because the traffic cop darted out in front of his vehicle and stopped the car because she saw it coming, and it just narrowly missed him. And they're like, that's probably also not an accident because there's 3 cars in the entire area right now. One of them is his and the other one's a freaking truck full of rocks. That doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. And the brakes went out on it after he sped up to the maximum speed of this truck. None of it made any sense. So there's some speculation that was also an attempt to just smash him into a million pieces.
Assassinations it seems really hard because I'm surprised they don't happen more often.
Yeah,
I was recently in Dallas and I went to the 6th Floor Book Repository, and you're like, the car just went by this building? It doesn't seem like it was the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But when Shinzo Abe got killed recently, it was just like
homemade gun.
Homemade gun.
Yeah.
Just went up at a public thing. It didn't seem like he had to be too sneaky about it.
No, that was very it was
But then
very
you hear
odd.
like every time they tried to kill Castro,
Yes.
and you're like, how did they? None of this worked.
Yeah, explosive cigars and poison this and that. But I can't remember who told me this. Something about, I think it was, I shouldn't speculate because I can't remember. But basically, Castro handles security. He controls his security detail personally. And so he said to someone, and I don't know who that person is, maybe it's like Putin, but I don't know how that would have gotten out. He's like, I control my security detail personally, and so that's why I haven't been assassinated, because CIA has tried like 17 freaking times to kill that guy.
Yeah.
But he picks loyal people to be around him, because I think once one of your bodyguards is a turncoat, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy who's like, yeah, we had the food tested and it's fine. And then it's like, maybe they did, but then he's the guy who put the cyanide in it. Or like, he's the guy who switches your cigar out for the poison one. Or he's the guy who just puts a bullet in your head.
Speaking of poison, Kim Jong-un His half brother?
Yeah, Kim Jong Nam. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
he was in Japan?
He was in Malaysia
was in
or
Malay-
Indonesia. I can't remember. Was it Indonesia or Malaysia? I think it was Malaysia actually.
At least what I read, the two women who threw the poison on him thought they were on a prank show.
Right.
Yeah.
They thought it was
Yeah, they were hired for a
they
prank.
thought it
show.
was what's the Ashton Kutcher one?
Punked.
Punked.
Yeah.
Right, and they'd done prank.
If it had been Ashton Kutcher, that would have been
Yeah.
Even more ridiculous. Yeah, they had rehearsed the show on other people. And they were just these two random girls from, I think, like the Philippines or something like that. They were like one.
I'm sure their acting friends are like, "Fuck, can you believe they booked those two?"
Yeah. Come on already. Yeah. So they had one component for VX or sarin or whatever it was on their hand, and the other person had the other one. And when you blend them together, they're lethal, but singularly, they're not.
Oh, God,
And
thank
so-
God they didn't high five after the success.
know.
I
of
don't
the
think they
prank.
even knew about each other. I think that was part of it. I don't think they knew about each other. I think it was just like there was a guy there who was Japanese and a guy there who was a couple North Korean agents, and they'd run these girls through this thing for the first couple weeks, and then they spotted him and they're like, that guy. And then they went and they put the poison on his face and he died at the airport.
That is just so wild that was easier than
shooting him?
Shooting him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear
Very-
stuff with Russia. It sounds like really easy. It's like they just put an incredible poison on the doorknob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of that is they want you to know that it's that it's gnarly. Like
And it's thought out. It's
Yeah.
rehearsed. It's like creative in a way. I mean, they really thought about it. To
If
be
anyone wanted to kill me, just cast me in something, and I will go to anywhere. You could cast me and say it shoots in Pyongyang. I'd go there, just for a line in a show.
hey, we want you to tell that pedophile joke we heard on the Jordan Harbinger show to an audience. But instead of pedophile, use the leader's name, and it's going to go down really well. Yeah, it's they do that, I think, because they want the spectacle of like, wow, and then they had radioactive poisoning for a month and died slowly in a hospital in a really brutal way that nobody could do anything about. That's terrible. You know, like they killed one of the KGB or the FSB killed a defector named Alexander Litvinenko by giving him tea that had polonium-212 in it, and they traced the polonium because it's so radioactive. They found it like in the hotel room, on the doorknob, in the airplane seat, and da-da-da-da-da-da. So they found, you can trace that stuff all the way back. You don't do that in the only people that can make polonium-212 is like Russia and the United States, or places that have like nuclear warhead programs, is France or whatever. So they want you to know, like, this was us, and it came from the highest level because look at the substance we used to kill you, but we also are going to deny it because we can, and you can't do shit about that. That's like the whole dictator thing.
That makes sense now. I guess I always was like, why are they pretending to deny it? And it's like, because we can.
Because we can.
yeah.
Because we can. Because remember those agents that put the crap on the doorknob, the Novichok, they put it on the doorknob?
Yeah.
They said, yeah, we just came here because we heard it had the 13th highest steeple in all of the UK. And they're just like, fuck you. This is why do we come here? To kill you. But we're not going to say that, so we're going to make up a lie like, I wanted to see price of Big Mac in Leicester. Like, that's the thing. They want you to know that they don't give a shit about what you think.
Do you think America does that level of killing people and they're just more secretive about it, or you think they don't?
That's a really good question. I don't think we have an assassination policy anymore, but we kind of do, right? Because we killed Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
But we do it in a different way. We do it where we're like, yeah, we flew a helicopter that you didn't even know existed, that the world has never seen. We landed it right here near your military base where you totally didn't think you were protecting this guy. Then we had 12 guys go in, and before you even wiped the boogers out of your eye, we had killed every single person in the house, and then we took your body back to a boat, took photographs, sent them to Obama, and dumped his ass in the ocean. So it's a different kind of thing. It's like we're so together that we orchestrated a trip to the moon using our finest engineers just so you're like, holy shit, I cannot get away from these people. So it wasn't particularly brutal. It was more like, wow, you guys moved the entire chessboard before we woke up in the morning.
Sure. It's like
That's
cool,
what they want.
cool reality show you set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do you miss that part of your life? Do you miss the excitement? I mean,
No, I got 2 kids, man. I'm fine with not doing. The biggest excitement I'm looking forward to now is like any kind of vacation that doesn't involve changing diapers on a regular
and not to
basis.
Pyongyang.
Yeah, no, I told my wife, I got offered a trip to Saudi Arabia, and I was like, I'm going to not do this one
Yeah.
I'm gonna not go. I'm gonna
Was
go.
it just a trip or like a?
It was like a media thing. Part of the reason I can't go is because they want me to go on the trip, and they want me to interview a minister of tourism, and I'm like, this sounds suspiciously like whitewashing a regime that has murdered journalists.
Yeah.
Sure.
Illegally in terrible ways. So I'm just not going to do that for the money that you're offering. And it's a lot of money because it's Saudi Arabia, but I'm just like, I just can't do that because I can't call out China shills for saying you're lying about this. And they're going to be like, this you, bro? And it's going to be me sitting in Saudi Arabia eating like lamb and talking about how great it is. Right?
Totally.
I wanted to, because I am interested just to talk about interviewing people and guests. I will name the name. I forgot his name. He's like
I'm going to name names. Wait, I can't remember
Elon
the
Musk.
name.
He's Elon. He does an interview, long form interview. He had Kanye on and
Lex Friedman.
Lex Friedman.
Yeah.
So I feel glad I and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, but I was like, oh, this is I listened to a couple episodes of Lex Friedman, and they were like interesting and they were in depth, and I thought this is really good. And then I listened to his one with Ben Shapiro, and I started to get a little bit annoyed. Now listen, I'm just a leftist boy over here, but I was like the amount of just going with the flowness of it, the amount of like not questioning, where the journalist or podcaster or entertainer desire to just be curious about everything and have absolutely no opinion made me feel furious.
It's dangerously naive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would say almost I think there's a strain of nihilism where, again, like there's this weird intersection of comedy, podcast, journalism, where everyone's talking to people, and there's a degree of. Recently, there was some people were talking about this UFC event and kind of there's certain people who were taking pictures like with Trump that were just kind of fawning. And just there's a degree of like, so you think it means nothing? It's just like, get a cool picture. It's funny. I'm with the guy. And I think Lex Friedman had Kanye on, but I think the moment for me where I was just like, all right, what is this? Where Andrew Tate and Greta Thunberg were having their little debate or whatever, and then Andrew Tate got arrested for possible alleged trafficking or whatever.
Right.
And his tweet was like, I can't wait to someday interview Greta and Andrew Tate. And it was this degree of nothing matters.
Yeah.
This
just
nothing matters.
Yeah.
All that's interesting is like giving everyone
a platform.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a challenge of being interested, but you have to debate like, oh, just by talking to them gives them a platform, and in this day and age, allows them to more people who will like their shit to glob onto them.
I agree with you, and it's all under the guise of what people will say is free speech. But here's the thing: one, that's not what free speech even means, and I'm sure that people already know that. I have a law background. I was an attorney, so I remember con law. It's about the government. It's not about, you're not required to have everybody go on Oprah, even if their ideas are shitty. That's not required. That's not what free speech is. You're not stifling anything when you decide, I don't want to do that on the platform that I have built because I think it's bad for society. And you're by having everyone on, you're saying even really good ideas are also the same as really shitty, objectively and obviously really shitty ideas that are expressed by a grifter who only wants attention, because I'm going to pretend those things are equal because I just want to explore everything. And it's like, okay, well, what if we explore white nationalism? Is that healthy? Yeah. Do we need to do that in public with everybody? And I get that people say sunlight is the best disinfectant. Okay, but you can also express a certain... You can do that in a way that doesn't require you to have actually bad people on. You can say, okay, we're going to have an expert on this topic on. We can discuss it openly, but you don't have to have one side advocating for it. It doesn't make any sense. So I just don't buy that. Sam Harris did a really good episode.
And the people who do those interviews, like the last time I heard that phrase of like, see, sunlight exposed it, was when Milo Yiannopoulos was on Bill Maher.
Right.
And after that, I think because it was just one of his bigger forays into the real limelight, and then people found the old interview where he like intimated that, you know, when if you're 15 it's cool. So people were like, you see, Bill Maher had him on, but most of the time these people have these guests on and they do not have the capacity.
No, they don't.
I don't have.
You feel the intent behind it is not to push or challenge, or it's to, hey, this will get a lot of people to watch.
100%.
And we feel that intent when we're watching.
We know that we struggle with really aggressively in person saying to someone like, that's insane.
That's bullshit.
Additionally, even if you didn't have a problem saying, actually, that sounds to me like it's kind of bullshit and you're just justifying this because you're making money off of it, and those are 7 proven lies, you don't have the ability in real time to either become an expert or to fact check what somebody is saying. So I could come in here and say, here's all of these things that are really gross ideas that I have because maybe I am a racist or something like that. And I could throw statistics out that are made up or exaggerated or misinterpreted deliberately. You don't have the ability in real time to push back on that. So when you platform somebody like that, you're not going, oh, well, I'm going to push back on that. If I have a PhD in the topic we're talking about, maybe I can do it, right? If you're like a vaccine skeptic and I'm a vaccine scientist, I might be able to go, pause, look at this. Okay, you say that this is it. I'm looking up the data right now. Here it is. You're wrong. And I know that because I know exactly where to look, and I've studied this, and I have a PhD in the subject. If I'm just platforming somebody who is making shit up because they're a grifter in many cases, or is having a mental breakdown, like Kanye obviously was with the anti-Semitism thing, you're not doing anything by bringing that person into a live chat. You're just exploiting them, but also allowing yourself to be exploited, and you're doing it for clicks on YouTube, and I don't really give a shit what else you're trying to tell me because it's really obvious that that's what you are doing. There's no reason to have somebody on who says something that's like blatantly false, like, the Russians are just trying to denazify Ukraine. Well, there's nuance to that in that there's white nationalist symbols in some battalions of the Ukrainian army, but the idea that Ukraine needed to be denazified and therefore invaded by Russia is just Putin bullshit. And by allowing that idea to be on your show, that's your choice, but you're not like advocating for free speech by doing it. You're not a fucking hero for allowing people to spread absolute bullshit on your platform. You're just grifting for clicks. And so I don't really care how they whitewash it. And so that was one of the reasons why, I won't accept money from a regime to talk about something that's interesting and to not express my real opinion. But it's also why I don't respect people who do things like that, because you're just trying to get clicks. And you know what? If the YouTube algorithm wasn't the way it was, those people would never bother having those guests on there because it wouldn't fucking matter.
Sure. Yeah. Do you feel like it feels, I mean, especially with the vaccine, I guess, that do you feel like it's getting worse, or the medium of podcasting has given the illusion that long-form conversations reveal all truths? Like with the vaccine, I think there's a certain degree of like, recently I got a heart. There was a little bit of cholesterol in one of my arteries or whatever, so nothing too bad.
Man.
But it was just like this. The whatever scale was 13 as opposed to 0, and it can go very high. Bottom line is, my dad got me a book about cholesterol.
Sure.
I've never been good at science. I read a page of this, and I just go like, science is so hard.
Oh, it's just too complicated.
It's just so, and I might be able to like sit down and learn a bit, but like there's this degree where the number of people that would like talk about the vaccine, I'm like, you would also have the same experience I'm having with this book right now, where you're like, I cannot even understand the beginnings of the minutia of how the body works.
Right.
But at the same time, obviously, people at the heads of organizations, I mean, look at the history of everything, have lied or curbed the truth or pushed things.
Yeah.
And so, like, skepticism is, of course, healthy. What these people have lost is skepticism of themselves being intelligent enough to understand anything, or skepticism of people, the people who say they're skeptical, and then they go with whatever their first, Rogan's first conclusion was after that, as opposed to being like, where's the equal skepticism for here?
Right.
And it's like this, I think the most poisonous is the belief that you are skeptical and then you found the conclusion.
Right.
Then you believe you are a skeptical human being, and that's how you got to this, as opposed to, no, question this. This is insane too.
Exactly. Most of the time, people who think that they are skeptics are just contrarians, and it's a line. It's a line I walk on Skeptical Sunday because I'm like, okay, well, am I being skeptical about this? So we do like research, fact checking, and it's not something that I do. I'm just there for the conversation with the subject matter expert, and of course, the stakes are low when we're talking about fireworks or like vitamin supplements. We're not going to take on a humongous topic that could be dangerous if you get it wrong. But you need only look so far as the fact that most of the people who call themselves skeptics in one area, they almost always just agree with whatever contrarian thing is that week. And they will say, you're a sheep for not believing that. And yet it's like, okay, so you're a flat earther, but I'm the sheep, even though you literally got all of your ideas from a YouTuber instead of all of the other scientific sources that say the exact opposite thing of what you believe.
Yeah.
That is just a really dumb way, in a low education way, in an unintelligent and a very non-skeptical way to come to a conclusion. Is just listening to a YouTuber and go, well, I didn't understand all the science from the one thing that said that the sun was the center of the solar system, so I'm going to believe the one that I understand the most. That is not skepticism. That is simply ignorance that is dressed up like skepticism because you don't even understand that the fact that you have a logical fallacy at the center of your belief system and that bias is guiding you to that conclusion. You don't even see that because you're not skeptical or smart enough to identify it in the first place. Scientists are the first people to go, God, there's so much we don't know. But crazy Uncle fucking Frank at Thanksgiving, that guy's got certainty about everything.
But I think the problem where the media is so culpable is all the scientific claims that they, for example, the concept of red wine being healthy for you, which was one study that was later proven to be many faulty, but it was on 60 Minutes, and it's so deeply ingrained that even when I order wine, there is a part of me that goes like, red wine.
I'm getting resveratrol. Yeah.
And so part of, I think sometimes whenever I see like news organizations complaining about, some conspiracy theory, I'm like, you are very much the reason people don't trust because
I agree, but I also think there's been such a blending of everything is media now. So I think it's like
Tucker Carlson being like the mainstream. I'm like, you're the mainstream media.
I'm saying like everything.
The mainstream media.
There's just a blending of online news podcasts. So I don't feel like people have those things delineating what was trusted at one point and what's not trusted.
That's true.
And it just is a blending of everything. So people see something as valid as another thing, and I think that's what's hard is you're like you don't have a thing to be like, no, this is real and that's not
right.
real.
You don't have a media literacy background.
Yes,
where you go, oh,
it's media literacy that is the real issue rather than just being like the media is all to blame. You're like, there's wonderful things out there, but there's just been a blending of everything where people don't know where to go and what to get and how to do it.
Yeah.
And so they have their own things that they think are valid.
Right. So you mix cognitive bias in here with the idea that so-and-so doesn't know the difference between Medium.com and BBC or France 24, and they go, oh, or watches an opinion piece with two talking heads screaming at each other who are just advocating for their latest book or are there to create conflict, and then goes, well, those people were saying this, but then this other guy who wrote an entire book on it says this different thing, and I just don't know who to believe. And it's like, well, wait, one guy has a book with published citations and read thousands of articles to craft this. The other guy went on there from Zoom and probably isn't even wearing pants and is doing a live debate where they're just disagreeing with everything because they work for RT or Russia Today or whatever the thing is called. These are not equal, but media literacy is so far behind that people don't even know how to evaluate the source of what they're looking at. So they just go, well, I don't know. I kind of trust Joe Rogan. That guy seems like he's trying to do the right thing. So they trust him, and I understand that impulse. I don't think those people are all idiots. I understand the impulse to go, well, I don't know. I listened to him about comedy and MMA, and he knows a lot about that. And he's just, this guy came on there, and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. That's what's dangerous about, quote unquote, just asking questions, because some people are not going to give you honest answers. They're there for the clicks. And I'm not saying Joe Rogan is doing that. I'm saying the guest on there is doing that.
Of course.
And it's very deliberate. And you should know better, but people don't. And that's the problem.
Why do smart people this is but Elon Musk or Jack from Twitter?
I know.
These are
so
what do you think is it about rich, smart people that they lose sight of?
Yeah.
Again, even if I'm gonna go at least be skeptical of everything, but they pick this side, and it's very confusing. And I sometimes wonder, I'm like, are you lying? And I don't know. You think this person is going to help you in the long run? Is this all a big con game, and you're not saying anything truthful, or is it that you what is it?
I think it's
Because people go to that. People go to
Yeah.
Elon, especially in America.
know.
It's a horrible poison of, oh, the rich, they must know everything.
yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Well, we see. I mean, we saw it with Trump. What's been crazy about Trump is that ever since he was elected, watching anything from 30 years before, it was propaganda. Trump, anytime anyone used an example of a rich person, he somehow branded himself that way. And we do give so much clout to rich people that it's every sitcom, every movie, he
true.
would be the name used. So for 30 years, we were all like, rich, Trump, rich. We would just associate
Sure.
with it. And he was never the richest person in America, but that's who we connected it to. And people do give so much clout. So it's
And in America, everyone's trying to get
thing.
we're trying to get money because
Right,
we
we
needed
worship
to have
that.
happiness in this
Yeah.
fucking.
Yeah.
So we worship that, and then we go, oh well, okay. If they're that wealthy, they must be very smart.
Yes.
And then here's the big secret is, and you guys already know this. You meet rich people, and you go, not all, but many, and you go,
Many.
holy shit, this person is the luckiest human alive because they're borderline moron, but they're so good at targeted advertising or whatever it is that where they made their money. Or you go, this guy's really smart, but man, is he ignorant about all of these other areas. But here's the problem. Since rich people are very worshipped in the media in the United States, what happens over a period of years, and I'd love to see data on this, like from a real academic who studies this, what happens, in my opinion, is that they go, look at all these people telling me how fucking smart I am. Whenever I do anything, I know more than other people about it, and I have access to people. So when I come to a conclusion based on the fact that I had 3 tequilas last night and decided that that was the thing I was going to say this morning on Twitter, that's probably right. So I'm going to say that. And I think with Elon, it's a little different. I think he really likes attention, so he'll say whatever gets attention.
Yeah.
But I think with guys like Jack, where he would be like, maybe Ukraine is full of Nazis and needed to be invaded by Russia because of NATO expansion. It's like, do you think that, or did that just occur to you randomly and you happen to have a giant microphone, and instead of actually doing any research about this at all, you just go, and that validates enough of it to millions of people. Like, do you realize how much damage that does? And this is a guy who believes in a lot of stupid shit, but he invented Twitter, so he must be a genius. It's intellectual trespassing, I think is the term for it. It's where you know something a lot about one area and you go, I'm the world's authority on coal mining. I'm going to opine on furniture making because I am a really smart person. And since I know so much about this, any conclusion I come to about that is going to be also kind of right? I mean, I'm brilliant in this one area. It's intellectual trespassing. Academics are pretty good about this. They know that you're going to ask somebody to peer review your thing. You don't really ask somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. I'm sure it happens, but it's very much a big thing in science. And you see it if you need any proof of that, look also on Twitter where someone will go, yeah, I'm a RN and vaccines cause autism and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, wait a minute. You have you have less of an idea or as much of an idea as a guy who bags shit at Target about this. You work in the medical field, sure, but you are as unqualified as me personally having a law degree to opine about vaccines. But it looks like you are because you're a registered nurse and you worked in a hospital, but that doesn't mean shit. Meanwhile, a Nobel Prize winner is telling you you're wrong and you're going to go, I don't believe you. You're just part of Big Pharma. You are delusional at that point. You're delusional.
Yeah.
You have a guest on that you regret having on, or that you felt like you didn't?
There's been a couple. Yeah. First of all, episode 1, Frank W. Abagnale turned out to be a big bullshitter.
Really?
Yeah. So everybody, Catch Me If You Can, right? That whole movie.
Yeah.
Became a lawyer and then became a doctor and pretended to be an airline pilot and all this stuff. Turns out he was just a petty thief. He was in jail during most of this. The whole story's made up. It's all a bunch of bullshit.
Wow.
Yeah. So the con was that he never did anything out of the ordinary or special
Kind
at
of
all.
a metacon.
It's a metacon.
Way.
It's a metacon. I don't feel bad about not knowing that because literally the entire world who knew who he was believed this bullshit, except some dude wrote a book in like 2020 who researched it, found out when he was in jail, talked to the FBI that he supposedly worked with. Nobody had any record of him doing anything with them. He lost a bunch of his endorsements. They found when he was in prison, but when it overlaps with the time where he said he was being a pilot, the airline was saying, like, they were out of business, and it's like, well, how convenient, but we still have all these records. Oh, look, not nobody by that name.
Yeah.
It just fell apart under scrutiny. But remember, he started his con in like 77. So there was no internet. There was no FOIA, probably, to get records from the FBI. So he was like, I can just make this shit up, go on Johnny Carson, and I'm good. And it worked. He's still doing speeches that are probably like $50K a pop.
Wow.
He's just a fucking con artist. I left the episode up because he's such a good storyteller, but I put in the show notes, I was like, this is shown to be just complete nonsense.
Liar. Wow.
It just, I don't know, it made me think of the Amazing Randy. Did you ever have him on your show?
I would love to have had him on before. R.I.P.
You
James
know
Randy.
Amazing Randy?
Yeah, no.
He was like a magician turned kind of skeptic investigator.
Yeah.
And famously is so amazing. Uri Geller, who's still around.
I read that New York Times piece. You read that Times piece about Geller like yesterday or the day before?
Oh, I didn't. Oh, it's recent.
Yeah,
No.
it's recent.
So he was. I might get this wrong, but he would go around saying he could make spoons bend and read minds and all these things, and he would go on Carson, and the Amazing Randy Carson was also very skeptical, and partly because they're magicians, and magicians.
Right.
I think partly like people who know how to trick are the ones who have a really good dose of skepticism.
Yes.
They know how this works, and he basically told Carson, he said, Uri will want to like check out the spoons before the thing, and what he does is, I make details wrong, but he preps them. You know, these spoons, he preps them in some way. He gets them a little flexible so he can go like this and they bend and whatever.
Yeah.
On the show, bring out a plate of like fresh metal and see what happens. And sure enough, Uri was like, "Oh, my powers are off today.
I don't feel the vibe. Something is wrong."
It's incredible. I mean, I can't imagine living that life of getting caught any second.
Yeah. Oh.
But you're good at confronting people in a way that I don't think we are. I listened to one episode with you, and you were talking to someone. It was more about interviewing in general, and the person mentioned that they had on Jordan Belfort on.
Oh, the Wolf of Wall Street?
Wall Street.
Yeah, he's another con artist who belongs.
Yeah.
You said on this show, I just clocked it because you said on the thing of like, oh no, he talked about how he had him on his show, and you were like, oh, I wouldn't have him on my show.
Hard pass.
Because he's a con man, and I don't want to give a platform to that.
Right.
And I thought, I'm sure the person you were talking to felt bad because they were talking about how they had that person on their show.
Right.
And I guess in that moment, it's not an admirable trait of mine, but it's also why I wouldn't have certain people on this show, because I know there's something in me that would go like, if I tell them that I would never have that person on because they're a con man, they're going to feel bad because they already had that person on as a con man.
Yeah.
Yeah, look.
But you got to know who. I mean, you got like.
But you.
I said that. I don't remember who that was.
You weren't mean about it.
Okay, that's
you,
good.
You were not
'Cause
mean
I'm like,
about
ooh,
it.
that sounds
It's not that
mean.
you were mean about it. You weren't like, you didn't judge him, but like.
That's good. That makes me feel
But
better.
I imagine you've hurt some people's feelings in your. I think you're blunt.
I am. No, I among other friends, they're like, especially if I have a couple of drinks, they're like, oh my God, you wear your opinions on your sleeve. But I don't put it in your face. But somebody will say, I went to Peru and we were doing a food tour and they were like, how do you like this? And I was like, actually, this is really bad. I don't like this at all. And I would stop drinking it or eating it. Yeah. And the person, it wasn't the cook. I would never say that to like the chef, but it was the food tour guide. And she's like, you don't like anything. And I was like, no, honestly, I just feel like this tour, it was a vegan food tour that our friend like tricked us into going on. And I was like, I feel like this isn't really vegan food. It's just the dish without any of the meat, and they put no thought to it. And it's funny because everyone on the tour was like, and the vegan guy who set it up was like, I'm sorry, but you're 100% correct. They took us for like steak frites and they just gave us fries. And that was a literal thing that they did. It was all equally bad. And they'd make us a cocktail that had like a special ingredient. And they'd just be like, yeah, this is just actually pisco now because the other thing isn't vegan. And we're like, well, this all sucks. And they were like, why aren't you doing it? And my friend goes, I envy you. I ate and drank all of that, and all of it was shit. And you just sat there, took one sip, and you were like, no, thank you. And he's like, I wish I could do that. But here's the thing. I didn't grow up like that. My mom is a total pushover. She's a very sweet lady. But she was such a pushover that when I was a kid, she would make me do things like tell the waiter my burger was undercooked and that I shouldn't eat it. Return a video game to the store that sucks or wasn't working on the computer. She would make me do it because she's like, I'm deathly afraid of the confrontation. So by age 7 or 8, I'm going to Babbage's, which is where I would buy my video games in the 80s.
I went to Babbage's,
You know what I'm talking about?
in the 90s, yeah.
And I'd be like, this game crashes, or I don't like it. And they'd be like, well, we can't return a game you just don't like. And I'd be like, actually, your policy allows for that. And they'd be like, the fuck is this kid talking about? Like, you could just tell. And my mom would laugh because the manager of the store would be like, an 8-year-old is telling me about my return policy,
Yeah.
but I just got used to that. And so, and then you go to law school and you're like, oh, people get paid for this? This
Yeah.
is great.
See, I had a father who was very confrontational. And I think as a kid, I was always so fucking uncomfortable with him just like, and he was an asshole too.
That's the problem, I think, right? Like,
Yeah.
if he was just sticking up for himself and you'd be like, this is a great trait. But if he's just yelling at a fucking waiter whose poor day is ruined, that's a different thing.
There's like an early memory where like my dad got mad at someone for cutting in a line, and then we cut in a line, and I said like, wait a second, didn't we do the thing that you got mad at the person? And I think I remember it because it was truly a moment where I was like, oh, you're full of shit.
Yeah, hypocritical.
Yeah.
That's different. That's different, for sure.
And you, why do you think you're the way that you are?
Opposite end.
Because I think part of the reason we're friends, we text and we say a lot of what we really mean, and that's part of our bond.
Yeah, I think I've gotten a little better, even in the last 5 years. But I do think, I think it's opposite spectrum. I think it's growing up in a family with no one wants any confrontation. Both mom and dad, brother. I'm probably the most confrontational now in the family, and that's crazy. You know what I mean? Knowing me.
No.
Yeah.
When you, now that you're a father, do you know, like, you know, the dog dies and your kid says, what happened? And you're like, well, he turned into Adams and just rotted away, and never see
this
him
happened
again.
the other day. I'm trying to think of the example because so my son, who's turning 4, said something like, what happened to, my mother-in-law's brother passed away like a few days ago, cancer. And he goes, my son, who's again turning 4, goes, what happened? Why is Grandma sad? Because he wanted to go sleep over at Grandma's. And I said, you can't tonight. Grandma's really sad because Uncle Ken died. And he's like, why? And I'm explaining it and da-da-da. And it was tough because he goes, wait, are you going to die? And I was like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but not for a long, long, long time. And he got pretty upset about that. And he's like, I'm going to miss you. Am I going to get a new daddy? And I was like, this was the wrong answer. What was I thinking? This is so dumb. Why didn't I just lie? And my wife was like, yeah, now I'm going to tell him the truth too. And that it's a long time. And we got him to finally stop worrying. But I really, in the back of my head, was like, I probably should have just said no. And like, you know, he'll learn when he's older. But I don't really regret it because once he kind of got over that I wasn't going to die like overnight while I was sleeping in the bed, he's like, oh, like a long, long time? Like when you're really, really old? And I was like, yeah, we have so much time together, buddy. Don't you worry about that. And now he's like, huh. So when the bird flew into the window that time and we put him in the ground, he died too. And I was like, yes. And he's like, oh. And then he wanted to kill a bug. And I go, we don't want to kill the bug. We're outside. We're in the bug's environment. It's not in the house.
Yeah.
You know, and he goes, why not? And I go, well, the bug will die and we don't need to kill the bug. And he goes, oh, and when you die, you don't come back. He like gets it now, you know? And I thought it was good to power through that in a way.
Sure.
There's some stuff you don't tell kids, obviously, but death is a tricky one, right? Because it is a fact of life, but it's not like, I want you to have nightmares about this for the next 20 years. It's not like a brutal murder type situation.
I think it's harder too than when they're asking a direct question too.
Yeah.
Then you're able to like sometimes navigate things.
Right, redirect it.
If it's a direct question that is very like, oh, this is a big important thing, I think best to not lie, even if it's hard, because you're like, you're sometimes seeing people deal. I don't have kids, so I'm just throwing out.
I love all the
parents out there. Listen to Russell Daniels.
Parents, but sometimes you see parents in a moment being like, "This is an easy way of like going on," and you're in my head. I'm like, I don't know. Like this is like, I know it sucks because you're so busy and so tired and blah blah blah. But you're like, it seems like something you should maybe, you know, it's worthy of a conversation sometimes.
Explore not bullshitting your son about this thing.
Yeah.
So my dad was very much like the guy who would go, huh? 14 times until you gave up. And so for years, and I'm still at age 43, like learning something that my dad told me was a thing is just bullshit. And he just like made up the answer because he wanted me to go away. And I can't, this wasn't something I had to learn recently, of course, but I remember one example from when I was a kid. The teacher was like, what does it mean when it's 1:15? And I said, it's 1:25. And she's like, no, that's not right. It's 15 minutes past 1 because a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes. And I remember going, damn it, Dad, in my head, because my dad told me that a quarter of past something was 25 because I said, I asked if it was 25 because a quarter is 25 cents. And I asked him like 50 times and finally he was like, yeah. And I went, oh, okay, that makes total sense. But no, it's not 25. It's a fraction. And so I just didn't know that for like years. And then a teacher quizzed me on it and I got it wrong. And I remember being like, oh, but I really remember my dad telling me it was 25. So then I had to reevaluate everything he told me. And I don't want my son to do that because that's when I kind of knew that a lot of my dad's stuff that he told me was just bullshit to get me to go away. And that felt awful.
Yeah.
What about Santa?
I figured that out on my own early. And when I questioned my mom, she was like, yeah, that's correct, but don't tell any of your friends because it's a fun surprise.
Well, that's what
I was like, oh, okay.
In 7th grade, a teacher gave an assembly where she said, like, you know, we get to an age, we find out Santa's not real, and apparently a parent called, like, what the fuck did you tell me?
Yeah.
Grade, wow.
What did you do with your kids?
So this is I'm glad you asked. So we just started to do Elf on the Shelf. Are you aware of what this is?
Yes.
Tell me a little. I never really fully understood this
Big
concept.
my nephews too.
I never knew what Elf on the Shelf was. It's basically an elf doll that you put on the fireplace mantle or some shelf somewhere in your house. And every day when it's supposed to like be watching the kids and if you're good, it tells Santa. And every night he goes back to the North Pole and in the morning he comes back and you position it differently. So you'll have like, he'll be sitting on a chair with a podcast mic. He'll be drinking the rest of the Dunkin' coffee. He'll be in the refrigerator eating leftover cookies and cake. And you just make it fun. And my son, Jaden, he 3 at the time for the past Christmas, he goes, how come his eyes are open if he's sleeping? How come he's like always wearing the same clothes? How come he's not moving? And we're like, oh, he comes alive at night and he flies away. And then he comes back during the day and he's watching. And he's like, you could just tell, he would ask so many questions. He was like, he just knew something was up. He was like, this doesn't make sense. He'd ask the same questions over and over again. And we're like, he doesn't believe us. So finally we were like, okay, listen, the elf is not real. It's a fun game we play. So we all pretend that the elf comes alive at night and flies away. And he's like, oh, that is fun. And that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And he still enjoys it. He just knows it's not real. And I'm like, this is not that hard.
Sure.
Right? And we tell him, we have a 1.5-year-old girl, and we're like, but don't tell Juniper that the elf isn't real because she might think it's real and that's really fun. And he's like, oh, yeah, like he's in on it now, which is just as fun as him believing a lie that we made up about a toy.
Yeah.
But then other people, they still believe it's true, and then they run for political office.
That's right.
Talking about the elf on the shelf. You're my kid. Ask me what happened to the dog? What happened to Uncle Larry?
What happened to
No. Say. Ask me. No, sorry. Ask me. Are you gonna die someday?
Are you gonna die someday?
Don't fucking remind me of that. Don't fucking talk about that. You know how much that stresses me out? I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep.
I know.
Go away.
I know.
I regret having you.
Not a fucking word.
Let's go on to our next segment.
This has gotta stop.
Sorry, that was so loud. This has got to
was loud.
stop. New box. This has got to stop. This is where we say a thing that's got to stop. That's got to go away. Russell, do you have one?
Go first.
Okay. Okay. Oh, wait. I did have a good one that I did want to say. Oh, I wanted to say this. Since we talked about assassinations, I went to that JFK.
This is a comedy podcast.
I went to that the 6th floor book repository museum, and it covered all the stuff about JFK. They showed pictures of him with Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
But they don't mention at all that this guy was a womanizer.
Right.
That this guy had sex with Marilyn Monroe. He had affairs. And listen, if I die and they make a museum and at some point in my life I had sex with Beyonce, that should be a full floor.
Yeah, the whole
Okay,
floor.
dioramas.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theorists outside. I cannot stand museums that are talking about history in any way, shape, or form and are like either made for children, because this wasn't even made for, this is the 6th floor book repository, but like talk about it or fucking don't. I think there's a part of me that talking about like people being skeptical in the wrong way or mistrusting people, part of it is like, well, we're not honest about anything. So this guy's dead. The only one who's still in politics is pretty fucked up and a fucking mess. Just talk about the guy. Just be honest. We're talking about his head being exploded
Yeah, it's
in a car.
pretty tragic and
Just
gross.
talk about Just be honest. I remember going to a museum in St. Louis, I think it was, and it was like first the Native Americans were here, and then they weren't, and you're like, what are you?
Yeah.
Are you out of
How
your fucking
odd.
mind?
Yeah.
Then what's the point of the museum? What's the point? And I think parents, like with your son,
Yeah.
it's like I think a parent it should be a big decision to bring a kid to a history museum. I think. I wonder sometimes this idea of teaching like a whitewashed version of history and then teaching them later whether that's good at all.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it's good to teach a version of Thanksgiving that's bullshit and then educating it later. I think let them watch My Little Pony first and then have them extract, because otherwise people have this illusion and then you have to one by
Right.
one, the same way with you and your dad, but it's with huge time periods of history.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good
Well,
point.
also, it's like it doesn't even make sense anymore. Of like in school, like for Thanksgiving, for instance, why even talk about like unless you're going to talk about it, just as separate things. One day a year we have a nice big meal. These are the foods we've always done. We don't really think about it anymore. It's not connected at all to any sort of fucking thing. But it's just a nice meal we have. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But like kids are making little turkeys in their hands still. Like that is kind of crazy that they're still doing that. And there's pilgrims in their state of America. It's like, this nice
But
meal.
that's, I think, was the pushback against critical race. God, this podcast is really not comedy today, but
Yeah.
but that was the pushback
That's my
against like
fault, I
critical
think.
race theory, where there was just a degree of like the people who they're like they just want to hold on to this nice version of history, and I'm like, we need to get rid of all this. And it starts with telling me how JFK was fucking Marilyn Monroe, and
fucking-
I've read just would finish real fast and wasn't very good in bed at all.
Where'd you read that?
That's a weird
I
anecdote.
read it on Reddit.
It's a weird
I
footnote.
read it on Reddit.
No,
Yeah.
I did. I heard that.
Okay.
I heard he was a quick comer.
Okay, well, I believe you.
And I think it's important to know that too. 'Cause
How long
people
is
look up
anybody
to
gonna-
JFK.
Yeah.
How long is anybody going to last with Marilyn Monroe?
I
though?
one
Come on.
time went to the Jefferson House in I forget where it is. Anyways, and it was funny because you could tell their tour guide was in a transitional thing of like they were kind of starting to talk about how
He owned slaves. Am I allowed to say
yeah,
that?
Yeah,
he owned
But
slaves.
it was like,
Not many,
like you
though.
could feel the energy it was new, and they were like,
Yeah.
so we used to not talk about this, but now we do. They were very like kind of nervous about it, but they were mentioning it. It was a very interesting time. I imagine it's more open now, but
I like that as a character.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like a
Imagine being the manager that has to be like, Ethel,
Yes.
now we're going to start telling people that he had many illegitimate
Yeah,
children
about
with
Sally
his,
and- yeah.
his slave ladies, and she's going to like, oh, goodness. And you just
Yeah.
have to be like, yeah.
Yeah.
When people ask, you tell them.
yeah.
when they say, "Did he last long in bed?" You say, "No."
You say,
No,
quick
no,
draw
he's a quick
McGraw.
comer.
That's
You're
right.
like, "This has got to stop."
Yeah, this got to stop. Sometimes when you go for a meal, sometimes with older people, they're talking a lot about the service. They're talking a lot about if the waiter's doing a good job. It's either way. If the waiter's not doing a good job or if the waiter is doing, I don't really care either way. It shouldn't be the main thing that we're talking about. But they're overly like, it's like they have nothing else to talk about. I mean, this isn't all old people. I'm just
Yeah,
sometimes
just your
this
parents.
happens. No, not my parents, but sometimes this happens, and it's like very like they're like, oh, he's doing really good. He's great, and it's like if they have a personality or something, you're like, yeah, but I don't want to rely on this conversation. Like it just feels like sometimes you're on a meal with older people, and they're very in tune. Mainly with how the service is, and it's a very boring topic.
Yeah,
for me to be-
It's like a talking about the weather type of thing. It's
Yeah,
just like it
safe,
is what it
though.
is.
It is
Your
safe.
mom knows not to bring up actual news because your dad's going to never shut up about whatever he saw on Fox or something that
It is-
morning or
yeah,
MSNBC.
it is a safe thing, but it just feels like it's one. Yeah, like it is talking about the weather. It's like one of those things you're like, yeah, it is happening right in front of our faces. I guess we could talk about that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Especially, I mean, I'll take it when it's nice, but when it's mean, you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
relax.
But even when it's nice, it's like, why are we so concerned about this person? They're just doing their job. Like,
Sure.
just like they're not part of this. You know what I mean? Like,
No, you're not at the CVS like this cashier is ringing.
yeah. It feels like sometimes it's connected to how much they're gonna tip. It feels like it's like this thing where we're all a part
Oh,
of
I
this
see.
now,
Like,
and that
Do you
feels
agree-
gross too.
Do we agree that
Because
it's
I'm
a
always
good
like,
job?
whatever it is, it's 20 to 25%. You know what I mean? Like anything, like it doesn't matter to me unless, you know, it really, so it
For
feels
me,
like,
I just go like 80%. That's just what I do. That's just my standard. I'm such a good
Standard
fucking
generosity.
Yeah.
Good virtue
No,
signal.
it
Louis
feels like-
C.K. had a bit about like the council at the end of a dinner, where it was
Yeah.
just like, so what do we think? How
Yeah,
do they
yeah.
do? Will they eat tonight? We'll see.
Yeah, but that's how. Yeah, it feels a little like that. Like they're like, oh, they're psyching themselves up for like either a big tip or they're like
And then they
convincing
psych themselves-
themselves why they could do a smaller tip because they're like, where are they? And they rushed us out, and that kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
stop. Just like be here with me.
When this
That's
is done,
good.
tell us
It's
a good one.
exactly who it is.
I will.
Do you have a This Gotta Stop?
Yeah, it's funny because I wasn't prepared for this, but I swear I thought of this before you brought up tipping, but I feel like they've got me by the balls because everything wants a tip now, and I'm lucky in life, right? I got a good career. I'm healthy. I feel like the servers have the really shitty job a lot of the time.
Yes.
I've seen people just be mean for no reason. It's hot. They're standing all day. They're usually young. Some of them are even from other countries. And I'm like, I want this person to have a good experience with the United States, with me in general. So I'll give them like 20 or 25% because I'm terrible at math. But
Yeah.
here's the problem. Then it's like, wait a minute, but you just didn't even do I came here and you gave me like water, which I didn't order, and I sat here, but now I have to still tip you. I don't really understand how that works. Or like you didn't bring me the coffee. I got it from you and the other person made it. So who's getting this money?
Yeah.
And then or it's like, all right, I did this thing, but this is a takeout meal, so am I still supposed to tip you? I don't really know. And then I lived in Europe for a while, not trying to brag or whatever, but it was so much easier because they were like, tip, you just round up to the nearest Deutschmark or euro, and you're good. That's
Yeah.
it. So you're not like, what's 18% of 364 for the whole meal? And then also we had alcohol, but then you just don't have to deal with it at all, and you realize the whole rumor was like, oh, the service is so bad there. It's not. It's fine because they make a living wage. It's their career. They take pride in it like everybody else who does a real
Yeah.
job. Here, the person is relying on you. They're being fake nice because they're like, this son of a bitch is cheap.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah.
It sucks for them. It sucks for you, too, because you know they secretly hate you before and after the meal.
I don't know if you mentioned on that episode, though. Maybe I missed it. There was a restaurant in New York where they said, we're going to get rid of tips.
That's right. Yeah.
And it failed because people looked at the price of everything and said, this is insane. And they couldn't emotionally get over the fact that it actually was the same price overall without
Yeah.
the tip at the end of the day.
Isn't Sugarfish? You ever go to that sushi place?
Yeah.
Sugarfish?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they have tips.
They don't
there.
have tip. No.
Yeah.
I just
Really?
went recently. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
I love that
Tova,
place.
Yeah.
my girlfriend, she grew up in a Chabad community.
Oh, okay.
So like,
Whoa.
So fish stuff. She's into sushi now, but for a bit she was like, I like sushi, but when it's like sugarfish, and I was like, okay, honey.
Yeah.
Well, we're not getting sugarfish for all our sushi meals. I'll tell you that
Yeah.
right now.
Chabad.
wasn't that
So she's
crazy.
an former Orthodox Jew?
Yes.
or is that Hasidic Jew?
It's a Hasid. It's a branch of Hasidism.
Yeah.
I try to follow it all, but I think she grew up technically Orthodox, but in New Orleans with in a Chabad community.
First of all, they have Jews in New Orleans. That's news to me.
Yes, yes, they do.
Surprised.
Well, this will. Let me go on to our next segment.
You better count your blessings.
Because I was going to mention this because I went to New Orleans. My girlfriend grew up in New Orleans, and we went to some kind of service, some kind of shul. The vocab is so tough. I'm trying to be better. Are you okay?
Can I be weird for a second?
You
I
can
have
totally
like
be weird.
25 texts, and I just want to make sure my house is not actually on
yeah.
fire.
Oh sure. You check this, and I'm going to do this first part because this is for you first, Russell.
Oh my God.
So Russell is a big New Orleans boy.
Uh-huh.
And why are you giving me this skeptical look? I'm about to do like a nice thing. So Russell helped me. Me and Tova, he helped us give like all the good recs of all the good restaurants. And Russell has 2 dogs, so we got you some New Orleans dog.
Oh, thank you.
Things. I thought you would enjoy them.
That's very cute.
But I wanted to say we went to the shul thing, and it was Chabad, and it's like it was a mix of Chabad and Orthodox, and the food was really good, and it was like loose and weird in that like all the guys were drinking, they were giving us shots in the middle of the day, but the women don't drink, they take care of the kids. But this Jewish guy, not a rabbi, but just he was Chabad. He came up, he said, "Comedian, can I tell you some Holocaust jokes?" And I just thought it's
No.
Oh yeah, but like. Jews, we talk about like my like blessing is just because I have like this a degree of Jewish fans.
Yeah.
It's just like Judaism's ability to joke about sensitive topics. The
Yeah.
fact that he came up to me and he told me some rough ones.
Some humdingers.
He told me some rough ones, and I think I'm going to do it for our Patreon joke. I think I'm going to do this one. I mean, like,
God.
but it's just what I like. And what I tried to ask him, like, why are Jews more okay? Because a Jew will come up to you and tell you Holocaust jokes. A priest is never going to come up and tell you a pedophile joke.
That's true. Maybe it's too soon for that whole thing.
Yeah.
Still sweeping that one under the rug. I don't know. I still find the Holocaust jokes really hard to stomach. I mean,
you're Jewish or
yeah,
no?
I am.
You
yeah.
are.
So my grandfather, he died in the Holocaust. He was drunk and he fell off the guard tower. So it's still really sensitive. Still really sensitive.
Very good. I mean, I'm Jewish and Italian, so I get to tell this joke. 'Cause this is hitting them both. I just think
There's no way you were going to have me on camera laughing at that, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to do an editing
It's
trick
a
of you like
close-up.
one of your big like.
I was like, no way.
Yeah, maybe you can pan
gonna
away
have
from me
that
too, because I
footage, yeah.
voluntarily chortled, and I
But-
don't know. I don't want to get canceled.
But it's just a matter of like I think it's because being close. I also think it's that not being in power. I think the thing about like Catholic Church, why they're not going
Right.
to make jokes about
Yeah.
it, they're in power, so
Right.
they don't want you to shake the foundations. The Jews,
That's true.
We've been at the fucking bottom of shit for so many different epochs that we have gallows humor and we have nothing to lose. And in certain times, and so I liked it not because I think it's a great joke. It's a fucked up joke,
Yeah.
but that someone could be like, you're a comedian. I can have a fucked up sense of humor too. And anyone who can have an appreciation for fucked up humor is a friend of mine.
Yeah, that's good.
What's your blessing?
I have really good air conditioning, and I've been very thankful for it the last couple days. Like, really good air conditioning, and it's
Yeah.
been so nice. And a little oasis. That's simple.
You're going to help me install this air conditioner when we're done here?
No, I gotta run. I'm
You
fucking
son
late
of
to
a
my
bitch.
show.
Yeah, like we're all late for everything. That's what
What's your blessing?
I have done a lot of things in my life to screw up my career, and somehow I have managed to fail upward every single time. And I'm so lucky for that. And I know people are like, when I tell people that kind of thing, they go, well, you've worked really hard. That's true, but that doesn't absolve me of the fact that I should probably not actually be successful in media of all things, right? I went to school. I didn't really get super good grades, but I went to a really good law school because I had a really diverse childhood, like growing up and going an exchange student and being working at this thing and doing all these crazy jobs. So that got me into good law school. I go to work on Wall Street. The economy tanks. But I'm also the world's shittiest finance attorney. Like, I can't pay attention. You wouldn't want to hire me to do anything important. But the economy tanks, so I get severance, which I use to start a company, but I find podcasting really early. And then here we are, like 16 years later, I'm doing the Jordan Harbinger Show. And it's like, I wasn't some kid who had like talent for public speaking or anything.
Yeah.
It's just the lucky and all these very unlucky breaks for other people, like the 2008 crash. Turned out to be really lucky for me. And then getting like shit canned from another business that was going pretty well, and then having to start the Jordan Harbinger Show over from the ashes of that, and having that be like the second best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. That's not really supposed to happen. So it's just really luck, largely, that has allowed that to happen. So that's definitely been a blessing.
Hell yeah. I think what I'll do for the Patreon, we'll take out that joke, and if you want to hear that joke in full,
Good
join
idea.
the Patreon.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/downside. This is where you can get our live episodes, our bonus episodes, my clean comedy special, The Rats Are In Me. We're almost hitting 150, and then we're going to start doing some more extra episodes. Is there anything you want to plug, Jordan?
Look, the stuff that was not funny is very apropos what I do on my show. I interview amazing people, have fascinating conversations with them, do skeptical stuff. It's probably light as well because I don't try to be like all intellectual on there because I'm not good at that. But the Jordan Harbinger Show has more from me and smart, fascinating guests that I think people may enjoy. So please take a look.
Yeah, I think if you like this show, you're gonna like this. The Skeptical Sunday was just it's very fun.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks for letting me steal your pedophile.
Of course,
Not that I asked or anything.
No, please. No one asks these days. You played me, and I got probably 2 followers out of it, so it was worth it on my end. What?
We'll be linked to you. Hopefully that'll at least do. Does PageRank
sure.
still exist? I don't even know if that's still a thing.
Patreon?
PageRank.
Oh, PageRank.
Where, like, when you link
I
to
saw
something.
Patreon. I was like, I just plugged it just now.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
No,
fuck, God, I
yes.
didn't get the word out. Russell, what do you want to plug? It's coming out August 8th.
Okay, August 8th. You have 3 days to come see me in Titanic before I leave.
Wow.
The show.
Plenty of tickets still available. Don't worry. You can go night of, maybe.
Well, no, you should get them, I think. But
You think I think you should announce and see if the last show is like a big fucking
a Russell show?
fest.
Yeah. I'll announce at some point. But yeah, so come see me in Titanic these last 3 days. And then and follow me on Instagram at Russell J. Daniels.
And again, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. I will be headlining in Atlanta, August 10th. First time in Atlanta, and then August 11th and 12th, I'll be at Raleigh, North Carolina. And after that, I'm doing a weekend at Kansas City Comedy Club. And I guess let's just end by saying thank you to the man who's responsible for this happening in the first place,
Kim Jong-un.
R. Kelly.
Hey,
this is the
R.
downside.
Kelly.
1, 2, 3. Downside.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.
Tell him, Russell.
Subscribe to The Downside right now.
Where?
Down here. Or here. We don't know, but just do it.
Or also, what else could they do?
They can follow the Patreon. They can subscribe to the Patreon.
I
No! Sorry.
Patreon.com/downside.
Too much pressure.